My name is Steve Bales. I'm with Visual Technology. It's a commercial video photography company that has been in existence since 1992. When I purchased my building in 2006, my wife and I had decided that solar would be a good addition. We installed 80 solar panels on top of our building. It's a flat roof right next to the turnpike, no trees. It was a prime candidate for solar. I would have loved to have done geothermal, but the HOA would not let me drill 300-foot boreholes into the ground. I think the cost of the solar panels was around $72,000. It had a 25-year parts and labor warranty on it. It also allowed me to reduce my energy costs and get back close to $21,000 in dollar-for-dollar tax credits from the federal government and also some subsidies from the state. So, for around $50,000, just shy of $50,000, I was able to reduce our energy kilowatt hours to about 0.62 cents per kilowatt hour, which was a significant savings over what we were paying in the past. It made sense, not only financially, but emotionally. The idea of burning fossil fuel when we had so much energy produced for free that was clean and renewable was the right thing to do. And anything that we can do to eliminate greenhouse emissions and make our environment a little bit better, safer, and cleaner, I think would be something that we would all want to do. I think this pandemic has shown that our waters are cleaner, our air is cleaner, just from all of the scientific studies that have been done while we've been out during this pandemic. And I think that it's just a clear choice that business owners should move forward with cleaner energy if they have that ability to do so. The fact that I'm getting anywhere from $75 to $150 back every month from Pico Energy, where I'm just selling my energy back to the grid, I think that from a financial standpoint, that's really great, and certainly a savings that most people would want to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. So, in regards to energy and quality of life, especially given that Chester County has a lot of small businesses, is there anything that you would like to see within the next 10 years improved?
Well, I think that I personally feel that the federal and state and county need to spend more time and energy in rechargeable car stations. I think that the more we incentivize drivers to drive cars that are electric would be beneficial. So the idea of having a better infrastructure of charging stations is going to be critical to move the car industry forward. And I think that the federal government and the states really need to have a coordinated effort from the standpoint of solar and geo and wind. I think that the idea of having less hurdles and less bureaucracy and incentivizing good behavior would go a long way. Green energy is the way to go. Stodgy old codgers feel that their pockets are lined with gold bullion because of gas and oil and all of these polluting substances. They need to allow some younger, fresher thinking into the halls of government to push and allow for a smoother transition into green energy and stop holding on to the past and polluting what's going to be left for our children and our grandchildren.
From my manufacturing engineering to a job with Metropolitan Edison, which in 1979 were the proud owners of 3 Mile Island and found themselves without any generation because of that. So I worked at corporate building energy conservation projects back in 1981. Since then, always as an energy engineer, I've worked for big corporations and little corporations, and all in the conservation and energy efficiency world. So that's the world that I've been in for 30 years or so. In the last 10 years, solar came into view, and it's such a amazing technology and has such promise. I left energy efficiency as a profession and moved over into solar energy engineering, and that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I'm a professional engineer. I'm a NEBCEP certified installer. I always say that I'll work for major corporations or two chucks in a truck. I work for RER Energy Group. All the way along, I also was an environmental advocate and been a Parks and Rec director. And of course, when Ready for 100 came along, it was perfect timing. The Phoenixville Green Team has been my home for that activity. Phoenixville was the first borough to create what was considered a vision plan. So I'm extremely happy where we are right now. We've gone from the political side of the resolution over to the action side of creating a plan. And Henry Alexander and his team of citizen scientists and smart folks and retired folks have put together a perfect opportunity for any community to take the template, to engage the specifics, and to get on with the hard work of enlisting everybody in the community as a stakeholder to do their part. And I'm so happy to have people like Paula Klein and Jim Wiley working full-time, it seems, or overtime to get this done. There's no reason that we can't work towards 100% renewable. It's just a matter of will. The most critical thing that people need is a role. The even greater challenge is leadership. I'm certainly hopeful for the coming generation, although I'm not sure that it's seen as an obligation and an opportunity the way that it is for poor people and women and minorities. The Green Team, as you can read, was kind of an environmental, and the transition team came in, which was a much more holistic approach to community, to health. I try to stay in my lane, so I'm the energy guy in Transition Town. We need to talk more about energy efficiency and conservation than renewables. If you want to do something with your money, get a caulk gun, get a new storm door, get a new thermostat, or put in a mini split and get rid of your oil burner. So I'm a little bit deeper into the energy conservation and efficiency than you would expect as a solar engineer. And in the next 10 years, fortunately, our energy buy, I think we're going to be able to buy solar. So that's 1/3 of the pie. 1/3 of the pie is our transportation. We'll be able to eliminate all our combustion. And as long as we recharge with renewable energy, we're 2/3 of the way there. And then we just need to get rid of the gas, propane, and the oil, and electrify and buy renewable. So for me, I like that simplification. I don't want to regulate anybody. The next time that the wife says, let's get a new stove, you say, let's get an electric. The next time you get a new hot water heater, let's take it off the propane or the gas, and let's get a heat pump or an electric. So I think that there's really more in a consumer education. It's really going to accomplish what needs to happen. People will be able to invest directly in farms and in nonprofits and in locations and buildings that will be able to produce their energy. They'll be able to be associated with that energy. The number one website that everybody should be looking at is their utility bill website to see how much they're using energy, because it's really remarkable. It's all there. Smart meters have given you an hour by hour indication of how much energy you're using. And you should know about your own business. And of course, the EPA Energy Star site. But ultimately, I really believe that this is a social thing. When your neighbor buys an EV, when your neighbor puts in a new ductless heater, when they put in LEDs, we're very social. I'll say what I say at home. Turn off the air conditioner, turn down the thermostat, enjoy the weather, and conserve. Just stop using stuff. The thing I didn't mention was the need for carbon sequestration. And we just need to plant more trees.
Mhm.
So from a Parks and Rec point of view, a public lands, private lands point of view, I'm a total tree guy. Plant more trees.
I'm retired. I'm schooled as an electrical engineer. Worked in that field for 8 years. After that, I went into logistics and another 8 years. And now the last 25 years, I've been programming.
Radio for 100 Chester County has heard that you have a net zero home project in the works.
Yes.
Can you tell us what is meant by net zero in this situation?
Well, net zero is a broader term for a building that does not consume any energy. The best way to say it is the used energy is equal to the produced energy. A lot of people try to achieve net zero through solar without thinking about their energy consumption. A net zero house or home can already be achieved 60% by just looking at your house and see what you can do there. Right? When we bought the house 20 years ago, the first thing we did is, okay, so what can we do here? So the best thing you can do to a house is increase the insulation on your attic. The R value is basically the heat resistance value of insulation, and the higher the number, the better that is.
Right.
Standard is R19. Sometimes people have 2 layers of R19, but I have 3, and some places even have 4 layers. So that brings it to R57. That's a good start for everybody and a cheap, do-it-yourself, easy project, big win. We have 18 panels, which is 2.4 kilowatt on the roof. And we're going to add 22 more panels, brings it all together to 40 panels and 7.5 kilowatt. You can compare that to about 5 or 6 space heaters running full time when the sun is up. Plus, we're doing more, converting from a whole house heat pump to a mini split. The smaller a heat pump is, the better the efficiency. I'm going to do 2 split level units, and with that, reducing my heating costs significantly. We also have purchased a freezer, a much thicker walled system. This would be the thickness of the wall of a normal freezer, and this is the thickness of the wall of the freezer. I'm actually a little surprised that people accept refrigerators and freezers that are as thin-walled as they are right now. So getting a battery backup. With that, I hope to charge the battery with solar, and then at night pull energy out of that, so there's no real energy coming from the utilities anymore. My first system that came up in 2010, after about 7 years, I got a letter from Pico with a congratulations letter saying, you've just paid for your solar system. So after 7 years, whatever you produce is yours. The average return on investment of a solar system is between 7 and 10 years. Before I put up the solar system, I spent about 2 years on a magazine called Home Power.
Yeah, so about how much of your electrical needs do you think the 40 will provide?
150.
Okay, so you're selling back to the grid.
Yes, I will be selling back to the grid. A system that would cost $30,000 10 years ago is now only costing $10,000. Plus the efficiency is much higher. We harvest our rainwater. If you take 550 feet of water in a pipe, that weight is humongous. So you need a very strong pump to bring that up. That pump runs on electricity. So if you, like I have 400 gallons of water, and after today, all the tanks are full because it rained all day. That saves you 400 gallons of water that you don't have to pump up. We do gardening. Anything you produce yourself, you produce locally, doesn't have to be shipped in. So there's a big gain. There's no packaging for the food you produce yourself, etc. We have a older type water heater that is a good 20 years old. But the reason it's 20 years old is because we have insulated the thing to about R30. Standard is about R6, which is a very little bit. If you insulate the water heater to R30, the electric heater elements will not be used so often. And the water temperature is fairly equal over the day, meaning the material doesn't stretch or crimp by heat changes, which saves you your water heater. Normally, a water heater lasts for about 7 to 10 years. My neighbor has been in his house for the same period. He's already on his third water heater, which, yeah, from a money point of view, there are 3 water heaters now on the land, sitting there on the landfill, which mine is still in the basement and functioning. So not only do you reduce your energy, but you also reduce your purchases, and with that, your garbage. You're not only reducing your energy cost, your CO2 footprint, etc., but you're also given an example for others. I think we should much more focus on doing it ourselves. Little projects, cheap projects, like composting is such an easy thing to do. You throw the vegetables in there, that thing will consume, and you get beautiful compost out of that. Plus, think about what you're doing. If you have a garbage bag, it takes much longer to fill it up. But secondly, take the bag away because it smells. The truck doesn't fill up as fast. So there's a lot of logistics behind garbage, which you reduce just by composting. The American people don't see the problem as much as the Europeans do, because Europe is much more consolidated. When I lived in Holland, we know what happens with climate change because we see it firsthand.
Humans can be hugely helpful in that we can live lives that are restorative, regenerative. Many societies of humans have left more fertile soils, more biodiversity, cleaner water. So that it's not human nature, it's cultural nature that's been getting in our way. And that's why the permaculture people have the culture piece in it. Our culture tells us we're separate from nature, that germs are bad.
Could you explain exactly what a permaculturist is?
Well, okay, it is one who takes complete responsibility for her or his life as far as the total footprint, and then tries to not just do less harm about it, but to be productive with it, have skills and approaches that make a joyful, resilient life for all possible. Different ways. The biggest part of the approach is to say that the greenest possible power is that power we don't use. So yes, I've got a wood stove. Oh, but I've got a big leaky house that's poorly insulated and an inefficient wood stove. So I need twice as much. We have to maybe concentrate on living well with less. And we've been trained that means going back to the Stone Age, but we can live in better ways more simply, with the idea that we might be closer to our neighbors, closer to our communities. We might have more people in the house, but we might have more tuned into the fact that, hey, we got 8 days where it's not in the 90s, where it feels better because we don't have air conditioning, right? So efficiency just means whatever you're deciding to do, you're doing it with less energy, right? Efficiency can be good or bad. In my mind, it's not a matter of efficiency. It's a matter of what the heck are you trying to do? What do you want to do? That's the question. Then how do you want to do it, right? So those are our ethics, though, that we can be the best for people, the best for planet, the best for sharing the abundance and connection. So if we apply our ethics, we can eventually get to the efficiency. Ethanol, alcohol, is super clean burning, is renewable. Why do most of us cringe at the mention of ethanol? Because ethanol is made in a really stupid way at an industrial scale. Corn competing with what should or could be food growing, or better yet, habitat, right? So does that mean ethanol is bad? No, it means most of our industrial system ethanol is bad. Maybe we encourage people to be more resilient, grow more things, food and herbs and whatever. So not everybody has to independently do 100% of everything, but we want to move more toward skills that people can do that are empowering.
Like motivates you to work with nurturing life and working with soils and carbon as a permaculturist?
Boy, that's fun. The fact that we can be renewable, regenerative, and empowered. And then most people don't feel any of those things are possible, right? They're kind of defeated, they're unconnected. Let's say you have a house with a lawn. You can get your green solar-powered lawnmower and you can mow it with green power. Isn't that great? So do you have a deeper rooted landscape? No. Do you have a diverse landscape? No. Are you building carbon in that soil? No. Are you helping relocalize your food system by having green lawn mowing? No. So what enthuses me is the idea that even on small scale, we can sequester carbon by building the soil, sequester carbon by having more diverse landscapes that have trees, shrubs, multi-layered landscapes. So you're helping with the insect apocalypse, you're helping with pollinators, you're helping with carbon, you're cleaning water, you're building resiliency, you're relocalizing, all that by just your choice to say, yeah, I mean, I have a battery-powered lawnmower, don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying that that's step one going up the staircase of what we're trying to work toward. An old geezer, Carol and I built this house in '96, so it was a passive solar house with PV electric. So our solar panels are 24 years old and getting old. So we have, some amount of passive heat. We also have spent some money and effort on insulation, right? And we also chose not to have any kind of central air. We have a whole house fan that sucks the heat out the top. And then many things about how we chose to build and design our landscape. So I could go on for hours about it, but very little lawn and a lot of trees, habitat, multi-layered landscape. Growers and farmers' energy needs. That's always a trick. There are a lot of farmers that are incorporating more trees. There's this idea called agroforestry, right? Organic Valley Co-op, with all their leftover tomatoes, corn things, they make their own transportation fuel. At reasonable scales with co-ops, farmers can do so much with a huge variety of products. So it's hard for one farmer to deal and, let's say, make his own homemade diesel or his homemade transportation fuel. Those are real like subspecialties. Same with biochar, the charcoal I make, which I've been obsessed with for 10, 11 years now. That's great stuff, but it's another job for the farmer, right? So again, it's the right scale and organization, and you can do miracles. But within every farmer is running on poor margins, beating their brains out, has a 40-hour-a-week job away from here and only grows corn and soy. It won't work in that model. Many people are growing food and restoring soil and having happy habitats and doing lots and lots for carbon by A, trees living short to medium term carbon, and B, building their soils, which generally last longer, the carbon in the soils. So that's one of my other pet peeves, but I'm here for you.
Perfect. What are some changes that you think needs to be in place 10 years from now?
Why is it difficult for me to produce a little electricity at home and sell it back to the grid, which we do? So we need sane policies that encourage not just renewables, because renewables are great, but when they're at such huge scale, they're often problematic. We need sane policies that encourage sane scale renewables. We need to incentivize home scale resiliency. In other words, people could be encouraged to have chickens, to have less lawn. Covenants against having grass more than a foot tall are insane. An emphasis on human scale work. When I was a kid, the mantra was, oh, you don't want to be stuck being a bricklayer or whatever. You need to get an education, so you're above all this. So we've been taught as a culture that it's very demeaning. And if you want to farm, you're either a farm owner, right? Big dollars here, or you're a farm laborer, which generally means low pay, quote unquote, low skill, which is bullshit. It's not low skill, low pay work by dark skinned people. So what I want to change in 10 years is that people embrace the joy of physical work and of real skills. There's a whole movement called the transition movement that grew out of permaculture. And one of their pieces of that is called reskilling. Why can't people fix things, right? What the heck is up with that? We are incentivized to reuse. And there's more shops and home fix-its and trading and things like that. I have somebody within half a mile who does the sharpening, and I have the veggie transplants and the knowledge about grafting the fruit trees. And so everybody has something. We need the satisfaction of being competent at things in our over-intellectualized, over-technologicalized society. Kids able to do things, being plugged in to have usefulness and the satisfaction of physical jobs well done. Municipalities could really emphasize relocalization in A, purchasing, B, power, but C, to go toward co-op or municipal ownership. Right now, every community that has a water system is in a rush to sell it off to some multinational guy that has a little money for the short-term benefit. Then 5 years later, that water utility, let's say, is free to double the rates and screw that same municipality because their incentives aren't aligned with the incentives of the people buying water. Have contests for the happiest neighborhood that has the most diversity of people, trees, plants. Our regulatory system has made it about impossible. How big is the dairy you buy your milk from? It's humongous. That stuff is coming from multi-states. And that's not because the local dairy farmer wouldn't dearly love to sell to you. If you have trees and farm animals and a apple that drops to the ground, oh, no, you can't sell that apple if you've grazed within 90 days of when that apple falls on the ground. We have so overregulated our agriculture that the kind of farms we picture are patently illegal. And that's a little stupid. As we learn more about the microbiome, a little brush with a little week-old chicken poop that, could be rinsed off quickly with water, would not hurt our microbiome, right? But in this world of germ phobia, the big guys can afford this refrigerated truck and they run them all through Clorox bleach. And, isn't that great? We have an industrial food system, but it doesn't really serve independent farmers, localism, or really healthy people.